They're like my favorite podcast to listen to.
Get a sound check.
All right.
Yeah!
You have you laughing all over this thing.
Dude, I love them.
Here we go! It's the Triforce.
Welcome to the Triforce podcast, everybody. I'm Colton, drinking some coffee because it's really late and I had a really long day at work, so I need some coffee. And, you know, I started drinking this coffee recently. By the way, hi, Zach. Hi, Rain. Just wanted to say hi. I found an interesting blend of coffee the other day.
Oh, yeah?
It's got like mushrooms and shit in it.
Oh, no, do it.
And I'm reading... One of the mushrooms is like it's like a C. It's like cordyceps. I think.
Don't do it.
I'm gonna try it. Let's hold on.
Stop it. Don't do it.
It's been nice knowing you.
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. Why? What's the matter?
I guess we have like halfway through this podcast before you start losing your mind and becoming a mushroom man. So. You better get this done quick.
That happened a long time ago, my friend. I went to Detroit. I went to Colorado. All right, let's go. Actually, I'm going to eat some of this
mushrooms, pal. Very different.
Yeah, well, let's try this mushroom parmesan.
What is happening?
I'm hungry, man.
Is the only thing in your house mushrooms? Like, are you going to be all right?
No, you know what? It's good. It's good. I consider myself a very fun guy, so that's why I have all these mushrooms here.
I don't have mushroom for you anymore in my life. I need.
Yep, I got you.
Anyway,
hey, everybody.
I'm Zach.
I'm Colton.
I'm Rain, and I'm tired.
We're all very tired, but we're here to deliver you this prime content anyhow. Rain, how's the moving stuff going? We've missed you, but we've recapped DBZ in the meantime. How is everything?
Everything is stressful. I hate moving. It's probably like my least favorite thing to do. We've been slowly but surely packing up everything in the house. We have a lot of stuff.
Which is really what you'd have to do. Maybe not everything, but at least some important essentials. If the zombie apocalypse were to happen, for instance, and that's pretty much the theme and where our starting point is for the game that we're talking about today, which is The Last of Us, which came out in 2014 from Naughty Dog developer and published by Sony. So this game's kind of gotten like almost this, I wouldn't say cult following, because like everybody seemed to really like it. Like a lot of people who call themselves gamers really enjoyed this game and really hold it in high regard. It got remastered. It got a DLC. So it seems to be a pretty shiny god in the zombie apocalypse video game universe.
Yeah, it's pretty out there. I mean, I don't think I know anybody who plays video games that doesn't know The Last of Us in some regard. It's a beautiful game. I was watching a playthrough of it because I had never actually played it, so I sat down and watched like a full playthrough of this game. And it's such an interesting concept for a game, because like when you think of a zombie game, you think of like a Resident Evil or you think of a Left 4 Dead, and you're just kind of going around, oh, I'm this special tactics and stars, whatever the stars acronym is. I'm fucking Jill Valentine, or I'm Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy. I'm just super agent and I'm here to save the world. No, you're just this guy, and you're just some dude. And you just gotta survive, and you see what it's like when humanity is like torn into factions of the military and the survivors, the resistance, and the fucking zombies. It's crazy. These are just normal ass people, and you never get that in a zombie game. And the zombies are cool too. Like that was a really cool concept for a zombie, because it's like almost plausible.
I really wanted to talk about that, but before I did, Rain, you have any thoughts before we get into this?
Yeah, so I played The Last of Us a few years ago, My game, though, glitched maybe 3/4 of the way through it, so I never got to finish it up until today, where I finished the game finally.
Oh, very nice.
But one of the things I really like about The Last of Us is that it has a sense of realism in it, where like you have to craft these things and your weapons break, and it's a normal person who went through loss going through this story, and then a kid who's also dealt with all of this going through it. And it's just, I appreciated it. I think this game is stunning and beautiful. I don't know anybody who doesn't like The Last of Us.
Right.
So 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. There's plenty of people that have had the reason that we're talking about this is to hopefully set up a later time in which we can talk about The Last of Us 2, which divided the community a little bit.
Just a teeny bit. Teensy bit.
Just a little bit. But we're here to focus on what we're here to focus on. So I'm going to lead us in talking about the cordyceps virus. The cordyceps virus is the Z virus, is the kind of pivotal.
Is it a virus though? Because aren't mushrooms
yeah, so it's spread by spores. It's spread by either inhaling spores or being bitten by an infected individual.
So it's like it's a parasitic infection. For all you scientific people. Oh, I like this.
You're incorrect because it's actually the best depiction of a virus. It is the most actually accurate depiction of something that could be called a virus in zombie media, because in zombie media, for the most part, what are zombies? Dead. So anybody who's even casually familiar with science, Rain, I know that you're a very, very big science nerd, so perhaps you can answer the other half of the sentence for me. A virus needs a
living host.
So most of the times in which zombies are depicted as dead, and they're like, "Oh, it's a virus. It's a big scary virus. It's spreading all over the place." They're wrong for the most part. That's fantasy. Whereas this, a mutation is occurring and it's spreading. So I actually think it's probably one of the better depictions of like a zombie apocalypse caused by specifically a viral infection.
Well, mushrooms also need a living host.
Sure, but what I'm trying to say is the people who are infected by the cordyceps virus aren't dead. They're just insane and now covered in mushrooms that are growing throughout their body. Sure, you can die from it, but only after a very, very long time, or by being killed by somebody, or by, falling. I don't know. Anything that, you have to be directly killed. So these people are not dead. They're formerly alive individuals, kind of like the ghouls in Fallout for me.
Right.
That's kind of the way I feel about it.
Which is super interesting, actually, now that you bring it up, because like they can be killed by normal people means. Like a zombie, typically when you think of a zombie, you're like, oh, that thing can't die. It's like, yeah, it can. You just shoot it in the back of the head. But only you shoot it in the back of the head, you cut off like the brain from the rest of the body. That's the only way to kill it. No, these are normal ass people with mushrooms on them.
Yes.
Correct. So other than that, they're just normal people and like anatomically. So they can die from like chest shots, from bleeding out. And it's interesting.
From getting curb stomped, any of the various ways.
Falling out of a building. They just have a lot less concern for their own safety, if we want to put it that way.
So, so I think that one of those normal people is our protagonist, Joel. So for game number 1 for The Last of Us, we're going to dive right into the story here. So the prologue introduces us to Joel, who is a single father who lives in Austin, Texas, with his daughter, Sarah. Joel comes home late one night, and Sarah is asleep. However, she wakes up and she realizes that the day is not over. It isn't past midnight, and it is still Joel's birthday. Oh, adorable. So Joel comes home late. He's tired, and Sarah's like, "Oh, happy birthday, Dad," and she gives him a watch. That's very specific. That fucking watch gets more screen time than most named characters in this series.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So Sarah, his daughter, the two of them, they joke around and watch TV until Sarah falls asleep, and Joel brings her upstairs. All very idyllic, very adorable. But, you know, that doesn't last very long, as it seems. So Sarah wakes up in her bed when the phone begins to ring in their house. So on the other line is Tommy, Joel's brother, who is a very important character. He tells her that he needs to talk to Joel urgently before the line goes dead. Sarah then searches the house for her father, but he's not there. He eventually appears inside after breaking through their back glass window after fending off something. This is kind of just it is described as one of their neighbors. So Joel kills this thing in front of his daughter and tells her, "We gotta go." So I gotta ask, like, if you're Sarah in this situation, like, what are you thinking about? Like, really, what's going through your head when, you know, your father's just killed somebody? She even says something to the effect of, like, you killed him. So she's shocked, but you know, this is kind of the watershed moment. Like, what do you do in this situation? You know?
I mean, and everyone else is like freaking out at that point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it's not quite the lid hasn't quite flown off yet, but I mean, initial thoughts, you know, like, what's going through your head?
Me personally, or like a normal person? Yeah.
Like, what? That's what I'm saying. Is like, what would you expect? Like, at this point, like,
me personally,
if I broke into your studio and I said, "Colton, we gotta go. I just shot your neighbor. He just tried to bite me. We gotta go."
You know what? Me personally, because of all this zombie media, I've, no pun intended, ingested. It's just, I'd be like, well, shit, say less. Let's go. We just, clearly, you wouldn't have shot him if he bit, like, he bit you, you shot him. There's no other reason for that than zombification. Let's get out of here.
Right. So the pair get into Tommy's car after Tommy pulls up at Joel's house, and the three of them drive through the city. So this is actually very fun. This actually little drive that they take is an actual route you can take through Austin, Texas. So there is a little drive that you can complete, and you can take all the same turns that they take and go to the same locations. And I don't know, I think it's just really fun. But the city is in a bad way. People are running around. There's things on fire. There's crashed cars. It's all very zombie apocalypse chic. And it turns out that the people are being infected by a mutated cordyceps fungus, which takes control of the brain specifically and turns people into lifeless carriers stripped of humanity. Eventually, the fungus begins to sprout from the head and face of the infected. So this fungus goes straight to the brain, Colton, and then it just takes over, kind of like a maximum overdrive. It's just like, I'm in control now. The mushrooms are running the party now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to note that this isn't like, this is a mutated strain of the fungus, but this is a real thing that happens in real life. Not to humans, obviously, but it happens in the insect kingdom and the very small animal kingdom. Like, there's a possibility that in the future this could fucking happen. Yeah. So
in the future, we're a few months away from COVID mutating and causing this stuff,
dude. If COVID mutates and starts with this shit, man, like,
it's gonna be a time.
Like, we're gonna have to refer to our Left 4 Dead podcast for instructions. So good God,
gonna need some aux cords in the apocalypse.
You better not play trash.
All right. So as they drive through the city, which is in complete chaos, they are struck by another vehicle and forced to start to make their escape on foot. Tommy hangs back to hold off infected, while Joel and Sarah, while fleeing, get stopped by a soldier who begins to ask for instructions from his superiors. Joel believes that the soldier is there to help him and his daughter. However, over the radio, they can hear that the soldier is instructed to kill them. Because of a possible infection and kind of a containment scenario. They dive away from the gunshots. However, Sarah is hit by one of the bullets. Tommy kills the soldier, saving Joel, but it is too late for Sarah, who dies in her father's arms. And I have to say, this is like minute 5. You got to get super used to this immediately. And Troy Baker, who is the voice of Joel, does an absolutely stellar job at conveying kind of like the desperation of a father who's losing his daughter, and not only his daughter, his really only real family left, because the wife was never in the picture from frame 1.
It's like pure despair that you can hear in this man's voice. Extremely talented. Wow.
So yeah, that's pretty much the first beat, and then there's a pretty major time skip. So this thankfully comes in some little beats and breaks here, but this is where we start off. So even to most games and most like narrative story experiences, I don't really think the rug gets pulled out under you this fast in many other games. I feel like there's a nice slow burn, but man, this is like right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's rough immediately.
They really don't give you the time to adjust to what's happening, or they don't even really ease you into it. They just kind of went, here you go.
Yeah. Sometimes that's how it works. Sometimes that's all you need, And what's crazy is that when you open with something like that, what the fuck is the rest of the game going to be like?
Well, why don't we find out together?
Let's do it.
Because there's a 20-year time skip in between those two. So Joel is 20 years older and now is in like the middle age, prime of his life sort of style. You can even see if you look up, like there's actually like a distinct difference between Joel's character model. There's a lot more, gray hairs in his beard and in his hair, and his face is weathered. It's really fun. But when we fast forward 2 decades, Joel lives in Boston, Massachusetts as a smuggler in a post-pandemic world. So Joel is kind of doing the very essential business of getting the people who need things, the said things, no matter what they might be. However, this kind of status as a smuggler tends to follow him. So North America is highly dangerous outside of the quarantine zones and other settlements where the remainder of the population live. Joel and his partner, Tess, this woman by the name of Tess, she's described as his partner in like the smuggling business, but there's also like not too subtly implied that they might be, doing the horizontal mambo. That they're like not only partners in business, but in, the terrifying ordeal of the apocalypse, getting, you got to blow off some steam every now and again. But they go searching for this guy named Robert, who is an arms dealer who owes them some weapons. He's only named in order to be a plot device, so don't worry if you don't remember Robert after this is over. When they find him, he confesses to selling their weapons to the Fireflies. So Robert's an arms dealer who owed Tess and Joel some weapons, but he instead sells them to this independent militia group that's kind of opposing the authority that is imposed after the virus hits. So this is kind of the main... like you said earlier, and I really liked what you said earlier, Colton, that there's kind of a breakdown of society when something like this happens. There's not only the governments and the deep state that are going to try to control and quarantine and, impose, do crazy shit like kill a father and his daughter because they were fleeing the quarantine area or the infected area. And there's also the people that are like, oh, well, we have the means to kind of oppose this. So they might get caught up in some struggle, as well as having to deal with the prevalence of infected. So it's really, to a regular guy like Joel, just a fucking smuggler with, not really a whole lot of, any sort of organization to his name. He's kind of fighting on all fronts.
Yeah.
Right. And the Fireflies, that's just, I feel like there's never been a more... I guess less threatening name I feel like a Firefly. I think of Fireflies. I'm like, oh,
I don't know, man. I'm on the opposite side of the court here because I feel like the less threatening the name, the more threatening the group.
It works on like mob rules.
Yeah.
If somebody's named like Sweetheart, they're like a fucking sadist.
Yeah, like a guy named Tiny is 6'9" and 800 pounds. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And all groups need a leader, and the leader of the Fireflies' name is Marlene. And we find that out because Marlene appears after Tess kills Robert after finding out that he doesn't have the guns that he owes them. So Marlene shows up and promises Joel and Tess double the amount of guns if they take on a job for her. So this kind of like his day's gone from bad to worse. He's not only going out, and you kind of get to see there are like bread lines. People are getting, food rationed to them. There are, armored vehicles patrolling the streets from the government. It's pretty bad time out here. So double the amount of weapons seems like a pretty attractive offer, especially to a smuggler, and especially one who's kind of been short-shrifted by this dude, Robert. So obviously, they don't agree right away, which you should never do in the apocalypse. So they kind of try to follow her and figure out what's going on. And that enters our second protagonist, which we'll talk about in a second. So, I think that at this point in the story, what is your kind of opinion of Joel? Like, is he this sympathetic character that has gone through loss? Is he this guy that's just trying to survive? Is he a hero? What is your kind of pre-game opinion before we really get into the meat and potatoes of this?
I think that I don't know. I feel like I sympathize with him because he literally went through loss. He's somewhere else. He's doing this thing that you can really tell he doesn't seem to truly care to do.
Yeah.
But he's enduring and surviving and moving on.
So you're definitely in the Joel camp. I like that, and I think that this is the best part about a certain protagonist. And I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. Is I like a protagonist who sometimes doesn't do or say the right things. It's kind of more believable that way. Like, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to say dumb shit, especially in a situation this cosmically stressful. So, I think that Joel can sometimes be afforded a little bit of a slack. Colton?
Yeah, I agree. He just seems like a dude who's trying to survive. That's literally it. And I like that. It's delightful simplicity. And it's something that's horribly lacking in today's video game environment. Everyone has to have this super complicated backstory. No, this guy's a guy who just lost his daughter and is trying to survive and, not die, not become a mushroom.
Right.
That's it.
And I'll tell you what isn't delightful simplicity. The job that Marlene has for Joel and Tess.
Oh, not at all.
Which is they want the pair to take Ellie, a 14-year-old girl, to a nearby meeting point. Ellie is very small and has a mouth like a sailor for a 14-year-old. And she's voiced by none other than the fantastic Ashley Johnson, who I am a huge fan of from Critical Role, as well as a great little cartoon series about a magic train, which I suggest you all look up. And so, however, on the way, Joel and Tess find out something a little bit distressing in this environment about Ellie. She has been bitten by an infected. They find the bite on her arm. So, you know that scene in every zombie movie where somebody has been bitten, but they were hiding it the whole time?
Yep.
What is the initial thought of somebody who is most definitely infected? You're going to try to kill them.
Yeah.
Which is what they try to do. However, Ellie attests that her bite is 3 weeks old, far beyond the point where people usually turn. So Marlene wants Joel and Tess to take Ellie to a certain meeting point in order for the Fireflies to help start maybe developing a cure because they believe that Ellie is immune to the virus. She's the only person that they can tell hasn't been affected by this. So at 14 years old, to, kind of know this stuff, to be able to advocate for yourself in this position, and to know how drastically important your life must be. I mean, it must be intense. It must be very stressful.
Yeah.
I really feel for Ellie. I mean, way more than I can sympathize with Joel. I really think that, just because of the age difference, I feel like with age comes a certain degree of being able to take things. But as well, I think that Joel and Ellie's dynamic is only strengthened by that and not diminished.
Yeah,
So,
I'd agree.
Once they get to that meeting point, they discover the Fireflies that they were meant to mate have been killed. How about that?
Yay!
Ooh.
So, Tess, unfortunately, has a secret as well. And one that is not as immediately relaxing as Ellie's. Tess has also been bitten and infected at some point. So while the Fireflies or the government or whoever is trying to capture them at this point, soldiers, yes. So there's a group of soldiers rolls up and they start to try to find Ellie, and Tess decides that she will stay behind and kind of stave them off while Joel and Ellie move on and are kind of forced to escape. And she holds off the pursuing soldiers, and you just it takes a moment out of the game, but it's so affecting just hearing the gunshots that have just, caused Joel another loss. The storytelling in this game is really, really good. But with that, we kind of enter into the real crux of the game, the real kind of narrative hook, as well as the gameplay hook, which is you and Ellie as Joel kind of going cross country with one another. So at this beat of the story, what are our thoughts?
I don't have too many different ones at this point, because it's just, I think it's really cool that now we have an actual mission to see that Ellie gets to the Fireflies to create a vaccine. You know what I mean?
It gives it purpose.
Yeah, it gives a way out. It's not just a game about surviving until you die of natural causes. Now there's a way to save the world, but it's still, again, not just, it's not like a Chris Redfield or a Leon Kennedy or a Resident Evil character for anything. It's an actual person now having to make the choice of, do I believe this person, by the way? Do I care enough about humanity to do this? Or do I just do what I'm best at and survive and just say, fuck it to the rest of everyone?
I hadn't really thought of it like that, actually.
Hey, I mean, I don't even know what I would do in that situation, because I'd like to take the high road and go, oh, yes, of course, I'm going to save humanity. But I don't know if I would trust that. That's one of those things in a situation where you cannot afford to fuck up. And that seems like something that's way too good to be true.
I think that Joel is a great example of the reluctant hero. He's not really interested. He's willing to get paid. He views this as a job until he really doesn't later on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, I would certainly have my misgivings.
Of course, you would have to. That's definitely a sleep on it kind of thing.
So our journey begins, and Joel reluctantly continues the journey with Ellie. And their first port of call is to find an old acquaintance and my favorite character in this game, Bill. And Bill is quite a presence. However, Bill owes Joel a favor. What this favor was, we don't know. However, that's kind of their first stop, because they need supplies, they need a car, they need the things that you're going to need in order to survive. However, as they start to kind of get towards Bill's estate, if you will, his house or wherever he's making residence, There are traps all around, which become a new kind of thing that you have to watch out for. There's like tripwires with bombs that you can lead zombies into, or if you don't see them yourself, you can take a crap ton of damage or die, because Bill is kind of this doomsday prepper, paranoid survivalist kind of dude. But he's also really well known in the car region, so he's going to help them get a car. Once they find Bill, Bill is not exactly kind, I would say. Not exactly a warm welcome, because the first thing he does is he gets them into a safe place, but then he immediately handcuffs Ellie to a pipe. So, yeah. details.
Yeah, but Joel also made it well known that Bill is not good with new people, so...
And Ellie is not too good with Bill, as the two of them get into several kind of verbal clashes. The thing is that Bill has a car, but a former partner of his, in kind of a disagreement, took a very important part out of the car. I think it might be the spark plug or something else very important. So you kind of they have to go, the three of them, find where this former partner of his was. This game is also told through a lot of letters. There's a lot of letters roaming around where you can pick up, kind of collectible style. And you find a letter from Bill and his former partner, and there's some kind of disagreement going on there. And they eventually find it. They get the part. And Bill finds out that his former partner was infected and decided to hang himself instead of turning. So Bill, who is kind of very clearly not really a warm and fuzzy guy, seems pretty like beat up by this, kind of taken aback and kind of saddened by it. So it's a little bit of a character flip, and we'll find out why in a little bit. But there's a great little level where you have to, Joel and Bill are pushing the truck from behind in order to hopefully get it downhill, so that Colton can help me out with some of the car lingo here. But, while the car is in neutral rolling down the hill, they try to start the engine and the alternator charges the battery.
Okay, so it turns on, right?
Yeah,
that's the major point. Essentially, yeah, the alternator charges the battery enough that it can be turned on. So by rolling the car down the hill, it turns the alternator, which turns the battery, and then the battery can supply the rest of the power.
So that it's actually a lot of fun because you have to like push, and then zombies will come, and then you'll have to stop. And it's a lot of fun. So you're fighting as Joel and Bill because Ellie is in the car. Ellie normally helps you out, but eventually the duo escape Bill's territory in the pickup truck. Ellie, while she was in Bill's he actually has a bar that he stays in by himself, which I love. Ellie was touching all of his things, and he's like, "Don't touch my shit," and he's like, "Fuck you." So it turns out that she actually stole something from Bill, which reveals a little bit about his character, and kind of gives some credence to the partnership that he had with this dude, which kind of might be more like a Joel and Tess partnership, because Ellie steals some pornographic materials of the male variety from Bill. So I just think that that's kind of very subtle inclusion, even if it's the absolute least that you can do. Like, people are still gay in the apocalypse. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
All right. So they get this car from Bill. That's the most important part. Joel and Ellie are headed west for some time, aiming to find Joel's brother, Tommy. And the reason that they want to find Tommy is because Tommy is a former Firefly himself. So Tommy was in with the Fireflies, but apparently left for whatever reason. And they make it all the way to the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where they're ambushed by a group of bandits. So just some regular old people that are just trying to, scrap and, get by and scavenge.
I'm so glad that even during an apocalypse, Pittsburgh is still Pittsburgh.
Still Pittsburgh. The wild thing is one of them starts to approach the car like he's injured, and Ellie is like, "Yo, we should help this guy." And Joe's like, "No, fuck that. That's a trap." And it's like, "I'm not into that." And eventually it turns out to be a trap, and their vehicle is totaled. So they need to go on foot, and they need to escape the city, which is under heavy patrol from the soldiers and the government, but also full of zombos.
Oh, yes.
So now they had this car that they worked so hard to find and get and had treated them so well for so long, but it is no longer. So that's also, an issue. They get separated in a ruined hotel, and the pair reunite when Ellie actually saves Joel's life. At this point, after kind of Ellie proves her mettle, I think, Joel had been kind of a little iffy on giving Ellie a gun so far, but at this point he's like, "Here you go, kid. Here's a rifle. You can shoot now as long as you use it right." And clears out some more bandits on the path to Fort Pitt Bridge. So this is a pretty pivotal moment for Ellie. I'm unclear as to whether or not she had used guns prior, but handing a 14-year-old a hunting rifle is a scenario that you should really only do if you're being chased by mushroom men.
I mean, that's just typical Pittsburgh etiquette. So,
Oh my.
along with the zombies. But I mean, that is definitely something that you should only do in an emergency situation. I remember being 14, and if you handed 14-year-old me an assault rifle during a zombie apocalypse, yeah, that would there'd be a lot of clickers around because I would make a lot of noise. So,
oh boy, would you?
yeah.
Should we go into the different types of infected rain? Would you like to take the reins on that, Buduntis?
Oh my. I crave the sweet embrace.
I gave myself my own rim shot.
Yeah, listen, I'm like too far away from the board, and I'm like, don't even want to reach for it.
I knew it. Yeah. So why don't you go into some of the threats that Joel and Ellie are facing throughout this and in the future?
Very clearly, the biggest threat is humankind. Because you will fight a lot of people. But other than that, you have, I believe, the normal quote unquote infected are called runners.
Yeah.
And they are fast motherfuckers who can see you, and that's annoying. Mm-hmm. Then you have clickers who can't see you, but they can hear you. So you gotta be stealthy and throw bricks.
Yes.
It's so
you
creepy.
throw the objects and it lures them away, right?
Yeah.
Because they hear, but they can't see. Oh,
and they make a beautiful, beautiful noise.
Oh, those glowing, grudge-looking motherfuckers.
I said this to Colton earlier. I think that clickers are aesthetically pleasing. I think they're very cool to look at. But if one came at me, I would probably just yeet myself off of a building.
Yeah. I would just yeet myself off of a building if I knew those things existed. Like, oh my God.
No need to deal with this.
Absolutely. I'm not coexisting in a world with these things.
Exactly. And I think the last ones are bloaters, which are these very big guys who can shoot pour like bombs to cause you to get infected. And they are, from what I recall them being described as, is they are people who were infected for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, the clickers are like, it's basically they're all different progressions of infected from what I gather. The runners are just freshly infected people. The clickers have been infected for a few years. The bloaters have been infected for much longer than that.
Yeah. So it's there is a lot of kind of progression to this virus. There's a lot of kind of different routes it can take, and obviously the runners, having retained their sight and their general senses, are like the least infected, then the clickers, and then the bloaters, obviously. And if you look at a bloater, you're like, yeah, this person's been a mushroom for far too long. But you know who isn't a mushroom? are a pair that Joel and Ellie run into that are also trying to leave Pittsburgh. Henry and Sam. So Henry and Sam are these two brothers. They're trying to leave Pittsburgh, as I said. Joel and Ellie get taken to their hideout. So they're kind of given a respite, a place to stay, a place to sleep. And, you know, that's not obviously if it's your hideout, if it's a place that you're going to be for a long period of time, it's obviously safe. So they try to come up with a plan to escape via a security checkpoint during the night. So they're like, all right, we got to get out of here. They make their way to an old radio station for reasons undisclosed, and they get separated. So because they're discovered, they kind of both go off in different directions. Joel and Ellie actually jump into the river and wash up on a beach. So the crazy part about this section is that Ellie can't swim. So Joel is kind of doing the work for both of them, kind of dragging Ellie's body with him because she hit the water, passed out, you know, did something, got her lungs full of water. So Joel is really kind of, you know, if he didn't care about Ellie anymore, he probably wouldn't have done that, is all I'm going to say. So even if it's just still to get paid, Joel is exercising some kind of some duty of care when it comes to Ellie. Where Henry and Sam meet up with them again, you know, just a little bit of serendipity. They find them on the beach and they make it to the radio tower where they're able to relax and chill out. Joel shares stories from before the pandemic, and Ellie checks on Sam, who is the younger of the two brothers, by the way, who's taking stock of their supplies. And it's actually a cute little scene. Henry tries to dissuade Sam, his younger brother, from taking this toy robot that he really likes because they really should only take the essentials. Ellie checks in on him and says, yeah, you know, whatever, like it's a big bag, you know, you should take it. Kind of to give him that one little comfort. The two actually talk about what scares them, and then they go to sleep. So Henry and Sam are kind of almost a parallel for Ellie and Joel in a way, even though the relationships are a little different. One is kind of a protector and a caregiver to a younger force. Even though everybody kind of attributes a father-daughter relationship to Joel and Ellie, but I think that's kind of reductionary. I think that kind of takes away from their overall vibe. But Henry and Sam are just two people in the same situation that they're in. So it's kind of like finding literally a port in a storm, finding Henry and Sam.
Right.
So, unfortunately, all those good feelings that you have rolling around in your stomach right now, just ball them up into a ball and just throw them away because...
Oh, good. This is my favorite.
In the morning, Ellie goes to check in on Sam, who, as it transpires, has been bitten by an infected but has not told anyone. Therefore, he has turned overnight. The infected Sam then attacks Ellie before Joel can get his gun. Henry instead shoots his younger brother, Sam, in order to save Ellie's life.
I remember watching this scene. It's so sad, man. Like, oh my God. Like, poor Henry, you know?
And it's too much for him to bear because overcome with the guilt and grief of killing his younger brother, Henry turns the gun on himself and kills himself. So yeah, it's really just kind of it's as you said, it's tragic, it's sad, it's really, really terrible, and it only serves to kind of further the plot. But it's a very, it's kind of a moment where you have to digest it, Yeah. Henry kind of takes a moment where he starts pointing his gun at Joel and he says, oh, this is your fault. This is your fault. This is all your fault. It's just kind of that moment of like, I just killed somebody I love. You just start acting irrationally. So irrationally, you're so guilty and you realize that, your little brother had been infected but didn't tell anybody and probably could have died in a easier fashion, a less painful fashion. a more dignified fashion, but it's all too much.
I mean,
so
the brain
feel
literally
we
just
owe
freaks
it
out.
to Henry and Sam to talk about them for a few moments. I think.
Of course. I mean, they just holy shit, dude. And I mean, we were talking about it on the Left 4 Dead podcast. Like, oh my god, a zombie apocalypse. Like, when we think of an actual zombie apocalypse, this kind of fucking puts a real light on it because, we're all humans. Like, everybody could be a zombie, even people which is the worst part. And it's horrible to think about because, you got to do it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no other options, either that or become one. Hey, it's the saddest reality of this genre. It's the realest depiction of what would actually fucking happen in this kind of a crisis.
Yeah, you might have to kill zombified me. That would be tragic.
Nah, dude, I would do the thing from Shaun of the Dead. And just put you out back on a leash for a while, and we play Smash.
Thanks, man.
I picture you trying to teach a zombified Zach how to play video games.
Yeah, man. Just got a no life Terry in the backyard.
Hey, man, don't bring Terry into this. Anyway, talking about fall. So it's now fall, the season. This game actually kind of occurs in a season, seasons of the year, and several months pass between the incident with Henry and Sam and now. And Joel and Ellie are now in Jackson County, Wyoming. Shout out. They are near Tommy's settlement in Jackson City. So they're close to finding Tommy, former Firefly and Joel's brother. But they need to make their way through an abandoned hydroelectric plant. Oh my god!
Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they?
Yikes! Turns out, as they approach the main gate, it's not abandoned at all. And Tommy and the other Fireflies are there attempting. Tommy and his kind of resistance, just regular folks, are there attempting to get the plant back online and generating power once again. So Joel at this point kind of tries to, Joel is the older brother in this scenario. Tommy is the younger of the two. And he kind of tries to pawn some of his work off on Tommy here because he kind of takes him to his side and asks if he can entrust him with Ellie because he has more people, she'll be safer, and he also knows the whereabouts of the Fireflies who can then, take her and make the cure out of her. But after some people raid the plant, Tommy agrees to take care of Ellie. However, Ellie hears this whole conversation go on. So she is very upset by all this. And Ellie runs away, which obviously emotionally I want to understand, but from a survival standpoint, a pretty smooth brain move, not gonna lie. She just takes off, and that'll become you kind of get her reasons as to why in a bit. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Joel kind of tried to, I don't know, escape responsibility here. I feel like he might have tried to be like, I am done with this shit. Yeah, I think that there's some kind of like, there's some logic to it, but I think that there's a little bit more emotion driving his decision than he would care to admit. And I think that's the same thing with Ellie, that she, hears that Joel, this caretaker, this person that she's been, by her side all these months, is now trying to be like, can you like take this bitch off my hands? Like, could you help me out here? And so as a result, she runs away.
Right.
I don't know. The jury's out for me. I think that.
I don't know. You're right. It's weird because it's again one of those super reluctant hero moments.
Yeah.
It's just that pure, that primal DNA rooted banging on the back of your head like, don't do this. You're going to die. You know, it's just one of those involuntary choices that your brain makes in pure survival mode.
Right.
I feel like you also need, though, to remember that she's 14.
Yeah.
And when I was 14, I probably would have done the same thing and I would have run away. It doesn't matter the state of what's going on. The matter is escaping the situation.
Yeah.
So, like, I understood Ellie because I was like, oh, damn, listen, if the person that has been taking care of me and is like the only person I have left is trying to be like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, someone take this, I'd be upset too, and I wouldn't want to be there because I don't want random person A to take care of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually very cute during this little scene. After catching up with her, Joel and Ellie argue about her going with Tommy instead. That's the next section that we'll talk about. Is they actually... it turns out that Tommy had told Ellie about Sarah at some point, Joel's daughter, who had died at the beginning of the game. And Ellie tries to make it known that she tries to sympathize with Joel and to understand this kind of need to catch up with her and to take care of her, even if he's making kind of a decision to the contrary. And he says, oh, like you're treading on some mighty thin ice, kind of like, don't go there. Like, I'm not interested in that. And Ellie lays the smackdown on this man. He goes like, look, I am sorry that you've experienced loss, but I've also experienced loss as well. Everybody I've ever known has either left me or died. So don't tell me that I would be safer with somebody else because I would just be more scared. And I think that is a fucking great line. I think that's something I really want to chew on for a second. Because there's something to the effect of familiarity in this situation, even if it's somebody that you don't really know. If it's somebody who's taken care of you, who maybe saved your life a few times, who's been shooting mushroom men with you, and you know, going through all this crazy stuff. Yeah, I feel like getting placed in another situation would be, you know, even more stressful. I think kind of after a while, you kind of tend to rely on that kind of person.
Of course. I mean, familiarity is familiarity. And, you know, especially in a situation where, like you said before, we're just shooting mushroom people and you're also 14 years old and quite literally everything changes by the fucking second. Something familiar to grip onto is so important for the human mind, you know?
Yeah. And even they can't really get all the feelings out in this kind of conversation because they're cut short by more bandits approaching. Obviously, it's just the game making you do some combat stuff. So after that's finished, they take a horse ride back to Tommy's settlement, where Joel tells Ellie that he's decided that he'll take her to the Fireflies himself. So Tommy, who was kind of all aboard with having Ellie as part of his merry band and kind of helping to satiate his older brother's wishes, as he's like to do, Joel's wishes change like the wind, and so he's like, never mind, I'm taking my weird proto-daughter with me, and he's like, okay, all right, I guess so. And Tommy gives them some very important information, which is where to find the Fireflies, which they can be found at the science lab at the University of Eastern Colorado. So they're going from Wyoming to Colorado, and Tommy gives them a horse in order to get there. So this is kind of a meetup between characters who we kind of started the game with. We kind of get to see where Tommy's been, what he's been up to. He's already was a Firefly, is not a Firefly anymore, but still knows where they're at. You know, so if you compare Joel and Tommy's moving up in this post-apocalyptic world. Oh yeah, everything's coming up Tommy. And I think that Joel's just smuggling. I think that Tommy is a very interesting character and is one that is pretty important to not only this game but the next. So Yeah, so they find him, they get the horse, and they're off. Ellie and Joel find the university and explore the campus until they find the science building. It turns out that the Fireflies had abandoned this site and that there's no sign of them. Joel finds what is found in the game, something called a dictaphone, which is kind of like a recording device with the final words of a deceased Firefly who says that the group has moved back to St. Mary's Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah. So now they have to go to Utah. However, as is custom for games like this, they're spotted by enemies, and before they can leave, Joel and Ellie kind of have to fight their way out of the university. So it's kind of like L after L. Like there's like these brief kind of moments of pause and kind of like the narrative is stretching out and takes its moment to kind of stretch its legs, and it's like, oh, time to die, possibly. So, yeah, I think that's kind of a hallmark of this game at all. And do you guys think do you prefer something like that? Does that make the combat feel forced? What do you think?
I like the idea of never thinking you're safe in a game like that, because it's a zombie game. You're never safe. You know, I think we were past this part, but when we get to the clickers and, you know, Joel has to break open a door and immediately gets jumped by one of them, that could fucking happen at any time. And, you know, when they're opening that one gate with the chain, and all of a sudden the chain sound alerts all the runners to their location.
Oh, yeah, boy.
You could, as somebody who's extremely loud on a daily basis,
shut your mouth in the apocalypse, buddy.
Yeah, I know. So it's like it's a quiet place up in this bitch, and you know I'm not ready for that. So that is a danger at all times, especially when you're trying to run around and you're trying to give out commands while you're running around. That's a thing that can happen at all times, where you could just get jumped all the time. So I love that.
You like the feeling of not feeling safe.
Yes, in a video game. Let me specify. In a video game, I'm very happy with my safety in real life. But
I really like that it gives you the opportunity to like stretch and like walk around, and I'm a very big person with exploring every surrounding that I'm in a video game, and also kind of in real life. So for me, I'm like, oh, this gives me the chance to go into every single room and loot everything so I can make 27 bombs. You know, for me, it's, yes, you're giving me the option. And then I get to see all of the supplies and go, oh my God, there's going to be a huge battle and I'm not mentally prepared.
Yeah, right. It's so definitely scary.
You like those moments where you can kind of take a beat and figure out the story. And there's a lot of collectibles in this game, right?
Yes.
Are you a big collectibles person, trying to find trying to find all the little Easter eggs and all the little things and how the game tries to hide it from you for the most part?
Yeah. I mean, there's a bedroom that you go into at one point that has a bunch of the like Naughty Dog like game like Easter eggs are all in that room, and it's really cool. I was really excited about that.
So they're fighting to escape the university, and in the struggle, Joel falls over a railing and lands on a metal pipe, impaling him. Ellie defends Joel and helps him up. However, they just barely escape on the back of their horse. Joel, in severe pain and losing blood, collapses as they ride away. So two things real quick, and then we're actually going to transfer over because of the first part of that sentence about Joel falling on the pipe. This scene actually reminds me a lot of Princess Mononoke, the movie, the Studio Ghibli movie, where the main character gets shot and he's bleeding out on the back of his elk, and he kind of collapses off the back of the elk. And that's kind of exactly what Joel does, is he's in a lot of pain, losing blood, and he just, it's hard to sit up right on a horse when, there's pints of blood escaping you. So Joel goes out pretty much. And this is actually where I think the game did something very fun and very interesting, because it immediately fast forwards in time to winter, right? So after Joel collapses, we go straight from fall to winter. But what had happened was, this game did so freaking well and impressed so many people that, like most video game series will do nowadays, they came out with a DLC, some downloadable content that actually bridges this narrative gap, kind of like very much the Rogue One from Star Wars of this. It kind of bridges this time skip that we don't get to see, and I think that's really cool. So I'm going to talk about Left Behind real fast because it shows us the events and kind of gives us some more Ellie backstory. But in games where there are time skips, hint, hint, Fire Emblem Three Houses, would you guys like to see more stuff of that? Like kind of like the almost like a string along of, even in a DLC situation as opposed to a sequel game where we would get that kind of context?
Absolutely. I would love to see that. What
do you guys think happened while Byleth was asleep for 5 years?
Let's see.
Shit got real.
Yeah, shit got real. Felix was training with his sword, as always, while everything was unfolding. Felix was in the training grounds.
Not even remotely close. He was back in Fraldarius with Rodrigue causing shit. We all know it.
100%. Edelgard was like pacing the floor looking for Byleth and then slowly going insane, like Azula in the end of Avatar. Like, yeah, man.
Dimitri was murdering people en masse.
He really fucking was.
Green, what'd you get there?
I said Dimitri died and came back to life. Went a little feral.
A lovely raccoon man. And Claude
just about to say our raccoon man.
Holy shit. Yeah, Claude just spent 5 years getting hotter. So anyway, this is it not only goes through the main some sections before the main game, but it also kind of intersperses with flashbacks during this time. During the badly hurt Joel during the winter chapter, Ellie starts exploring a shopping mall looking for supplies such as sutures and bandages. But it also kind of shows us the real circumstances behind the driving force of the story, which is how Ellie came to get bitten by the infected, to figure out she's immune in the first place. So I think this is just so much fun, man. I never played it, but like I did a deep dive, and I think this is great. Ellie makes her way through various stores in the mall, taking down infected, and discovers a military helicopter, where inside she finds a stocked first aid kit with all of the things that she's going to need. However, this is also an important and interesting little part about like living in an apocalypse that I think this did very well, is now that she has it, she has to fight her way back to Joel. It's not just like, I got the item, quest over. You have to go back, which I think is pretty cool. But we get some flashbacks to even younger Ellie when she was even more of a babby. Ellie is asleep in a quarantine zone where she lives, and her best friend Riley scares her awake. Ellie assumed that Riley was dead, but it turns out that Riley had been inducted into the Fireflies. Riley wants to make amends for how the two left things the last time they met. And Riley takes Ellie out of their quarantine zone to explore an abandoned mall. So it's pretty interesting here. In the Riley Ellie story, the mall is a little bit more done up and is a little bit more in good condition, whereas it's like full 28 days later with the mall that Joel and Ellie find themselves in. But I think it's cool how they're kind of showing the difference between how time affects things and the same location. And yeah, we get to learn a little bit about Ellie before this all went down. So as they go through the shopping center, the pair find a trip switch and restore power to the building. So probably not the smartest thing to do, but, it's kind of all very nice and cute and sweet. And they turn on like the merry-go-round, and it's all very idyllic. The pair talk and laugh, as they have fun exploring the new lit up mall, throwing bricks at cars, pretending to play a broken arcade game, and having a water gun fight. So this is like two children. Ellie's like 10 or 11 years old during this. And these are just two girls having a good time, being friends in a pretty shitty situation. And there are parts of it that they have to kind of sacrifice. Like they have to pretend to play Galaga instead of actually playing it, you know, like.
How do you pretend to play? Like, how do you pretend to do something? You know what I mean?
Listen, I've got some Terry combos just wrote into the brain by now.
Like he's doing
honestly, if you handed me a Switch post-apocalypse, I could still probably pull off a power geyser.
Oh my god!
But yeah, it's like kind of like using your imagination, which is important.
Oh, of course, but like just video games by definition are pretend, and like that's upsetting. Just pretending to pretend to do something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Rain, I don't want to, ask you, what do you think about Ellie and Riley? What do you think about this kind of like dynamic that they have between them? That Riley is this, like they thought she was dead, but it turns out she's a firefly, and then the two of them kind of get to reconnect.
I don't really know what to say exactly about that. Because, I mean, I get it. They're kids. She was inducted into the Fireflies and she feels bad about what happened. And, we're going to go and we're going to go play and do all of this. I get it. They're best friends. I understand that. But also, y'all went to an abandoned mall and turned it on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I can get past that part.
Yeah, and you might just get your vindication after I read this next section. So as they go through the so Riley reveals that she has been assigned to a Firefly group in a different part of the country and asks Ellie what she should do. Ellie tells her to go and do the thing. However, Riley plugs Ellie's Walkman into the store's sound system and begins to play music as they dance together.
It's so sweet.
Really, really kind of dropping the ball. Ellie then takes this moment, changes her mind, and asks Riley to stay. Riley agrees, rips off her Firefly dog tag, and the two of them share a kiss. So this is a major portion of Ellie's character moving forward and becomes a major point of reference in The Last of Us 2. But Ellie enjoys herself some ladies, and it kind of all started off with her best friend, Riley. However, before the pair can leave in peace, surprise, surprise, the infected are attracted to the music and begin to swarm the abandoned mall.
Come on, just let them have them. Like, you imagine the zombies are just like, no, just let them have it.
Hold on. Just hold back, guys. Give them a moment. Okay, now.
The zombies are outside, literally. Jeff, no, wait. Let them kiss.
We talked about this
first. All right, they had their romantic moment. Go.
It's just like one of them's like, oh, okay, we're all set. Just
a bloater, and he's got his hands tucked under his chin. A clicker punches him in the shoulder. It's like, we're here to do a job. So the pair run away, obviously, and in their attempt to escape, both Ellie and Riley are bitten. Knowing that their fates are sealed, they sit down together and decide what to do. So, rather than commit suicide, Riley suggests that they ride out the infection and be, as Riley says, be all poetic and shit and lose our minds together. However, little does Riley know that Ellie is immune, and Riley eventually turns and Ellie does not.
That is so fucked.
Yeah, so obviously the title of this DLC has a dual meaning, because in the events between fall and winter of the main game, Ellie is left behind because Joel's fucked up, and she has to survive on her own while also tending to Joel, kind of reversing their relationship in like a caregiving sense. So she's kind of been left behind to deal with her own. But Riley was also kind of left behind by circumstances because of Ellie's immunity.
Yeah.
So it's really sad.
I mean,
really,
it's like,
really sad.
It's like that all tried and true thing. Like when you wish for immortality, you don't consider the consequence of that, where, everyone else isn't immortal. So it's just, that's so fucked up. Cause like, you don't even know, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah. Yeah. But obviously Ellie is able to get back to Joel and able to fix him up, because as we go back into the main game, we're in wintertime. Ellie has been looking after a badly injured Joel, and she hunts for food in the snowy woods with bows and arrows. After hunting a rabbit, Ellie tracks a deer and tracks it down. The deer runs through the trees towards a settlement. Ellie reaches the animal, but hears that she is not alone. A character by the name of David appears with his friend James. They want the deer for their people, but Ellie isn't budging. David offers to trade, and Ellie very obviously asks for medicine. So, in order to help Joel, while James goes back to get some medicine, Ellie and David shelter from the cold inside a cabin. A group of infected emerge and kind of force the unlikely duo to work together to survive. So this guy, David, is, one of the other non-infected survivors, just a dude trying to care for his own settlement. And Ellie's trying to care for Joel by going full, Rambo in the woods and hunting deer. So the crazy part about this, is this next section, is that after they deal with the infected, David tells Ellie that a group of his men were killed by, quote, a crazy man traveling with a little girl. Yeah. Things are getting a little spicy here.
Yeah, a little bit.
David is very clearly antagonistic towards Ellie. However, he does let Ellie go with the medicine as promised, which is pretty cool given the circumstances. She runs away and leaves with her horse. Ellie goes back to Joel and gives him the penicillin that was provided by David and James. However, later on, Ellie overhears some men outside as Ellie has been tracked and they are looking for her. Ellie decides to throw them off the trail by riding back out, but she's spotted and her horse is killed. Good God.
Oh, no.
That was a really sad moment.
The horse, man. You don't kill the horse. That's just knowledge by now. Whew. But, that's the apocalypse, baby.
It's classless.
So Ellie fights back to Joel. However, unfortunately, she gets captured by David. So Ellie wakes up in a cell, like you do when you get captured. And she watches David butchering some distinctly human corpses. So David,
not good.
Yeah. Very much the White Glove Society from Fallout New Vegas up in here. People will turn to cannibalism in the apocalypse.
I mean, is it wrong though in that situation? I mean, I don't know. When it's your only option.
When it's literally your only option, sure. But we're gonna talk about that. It gets into this a little bit. So David brings Ellie some food. However, he assures her that it's, quote, just deer meat. Would you fucking eat this?
No.
Absolutely not. No way. Oh, here you go. I've been cutting up a man's, thighs for the last 80 seconds, but here you go. Here's some venison. Absolutely not. I'm like, no, that is somebody who used to have a name. No, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I mean, in that situation, I don't even know if Ellie was starving at that point, but even in that situation, I'd be like, yeah, you can keep that, Dave. Thanks.
Yeah, I will quite literally eat a pine cone before I eat this.
David confesses to cannibalism. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, David confesses to cannibalism, but tells Ellie he can help her live if she can gain the trust of his people. Basically saying, hey, if you tell them you're immune and shit, Everything's cool. You know, we can help you out. You don't need that guy. Basically asking her to leave Joel for dead.
This scene, Zach, that you're about to talk about,
Please.
is my actual favorite part in the whole game.
Want to talk about it first and then tell us why, or do you want to tell us why and then we talk about it?
You can talk about it. I just need it to be known this is like my favorite scene.
Here we go. Rain sponsored scene coming up. Ellie breaks his finger and David threatens to kill her.
Good.
So, yeah. Ellie just fucking reaches through the bars and just snaps it like a goddamn piece of celery.
Oh, ow. Actually, ugh, that hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts
probably.
to think about. Because, like, I don't know, man. I don't know if you guys get that, but that's one of the like little injuries like that. Those are always like the weirdest to hear. And just like, yeah, they hurt to hear.
And I mean, I actually can drop a little history on you. The big, it really helps to break the fingers of your opponents. You know, that's a pretty common thing, either breaking them or, cutting them off. Does anybody here happen to know why we use the middle finger?
Yes,
gesture?
that I know, because they used to cut off the middle fingers of archers. And it's a sign of like, fuck you, you can't get my finger.
Yeah, I'm going to kill you from afar. So, yeah, I feel like, Rain, tell us why you like to see Ellie break this man's finger.
Okay, it's actually this part and then a little bit forward is why I love this scene so much. A, because she was like, he kept being like, well, you need to tell me your name so I can like, get you on the good side of these people. And she was like, oh, yeah, of course, the good side. Right. Snaps his finger, tries to steal the keys, and then goes, Ellie, tell them that the little girl who broke your finger is named Ellie. And I was like, yes, bitch, fucking get it.
God damn.
Love
But
that.
then just a little bit after that, he takes her out of the cell because they have decided they're going to cut her up and, eat her. And she bites him and goes, you told me that everything happens for a reason. Well, I'm infected. Fuck you.
Oh,
And literally the best, because when they were fighting off the infected, he says everything happens for a reason, and then says, I know you were with the crazy guy killing my men. And she was just like, bitch, let me reverse the Uno reverse card right here, now.
Yeah. So it's coming up right here. So meanwhile, in the meantime, Joel wakes up and notices Ellie is missing. Still really fucked up. He gets up and begins searching for her, running into David's men in the process. He captures a couple of them and begins to interrogate them regarding Ellie. So after they don't really start answering his questions too well, he goes back to an old tried and true smuggler method of torturing them.
yep.
So, man, I think I have a similar jazz about this scene that Rain has to the one that they just spoke about and the one coming up. Because, dude, Troy Baker pulls absolutely zero punches with this scene. His voice performance in this is crazy because Joel just drives a knife into the knee of this dude. And while he's screaming in pain, he's just kind of like slapping him in the face. He's like, no, don't lose focus. Look at me. Kind of trying to keep, really, really, really forceful. And he says, because if you don't tell me what I want to know, I'm going to pop your fucking knee off. And I'm like, oh my God, just like
Jesus.
Yeah, this is the moment, this is when, Papa Bear comes out to play and Joel is like, you're going to tell me where Ellie is right now. So obviously, after finding out what he needs to know, after revealing Ellie's location, Joel kills both men.
Good.
Ellie is, very good. Ellie is forced onto a table and held down. She tells David he's infected and shows her arm. With the men approaching, she tries to make her escape and tries to find a way out and back to Joel. Oh, Rain, it's really good that you talked about this because this review actually doesn't go into it. So Ellie just kind of gets to turn the tables a little bit. Meanwhile, Joel is approaching. Eventually, Ellie and David hunt each other in a burning restaurant. So this is a really, really crazy scene because everything's on fire and you can hear David. There's a certain mechanic in the game in order to find either people or infected where you could listen harder. And if you weren't on point with that listening button, you could get sniped by David from like across the map. Like it was not playing around. So, however, Ellie grabs his machete and brutally murders him. So this is great. We just watch Ellie kind of do that like desperate, like stabbing far too many times just out of just anger and rage and desperation. And it is fucking great. The fact that like a fully grown woman like Ashley Johnson can make me convinced of like the pathos behind a 14-year-old girl just stabbing a man repeatedly in the chest, like just good stuff. Joel actually pulls Ellie off of David, and initially she thinks that he's a threat. So she starts screaming like, "I'll kill you! I'll fucking kill you! Get off me!" And he's like, "Oh, it's me! It's me! It's me! It's Joel." And the two of them just kind of, it's really a pivotal moment in their relationship because the two of them were so worried about one another. And Ellie is in this very, very vulnerable state in which she just killed a man. You know, like she really just stabbed the hell out of this dude who kept her in a cage, who she thought he was going to eat her, you know, and it's really, she starts to cry and the two of them kind of hold each other. And it's really, this is like more than mid game at this point. So it's really kind of their relationship is kind of sort of fully blossomed at this point. So obviously the two catch up and they get back on the Firefly path. But winter's a lot to deal with in this game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Dang. It's just, there's so much plot in such a short amount of time. And then they gave us the additional plot with the DLC where we found out what Ellie had to do even prior to this. Yeah, it's pretty great. So we're going to move on to the last section of the game, which is springtime. So far, what would you guys have to say about this journey? I mean, they've gone from Boston, Massachusetts to Salt Lake City, Utah. That's an extreme geological distance.
Dude, I drove up to Rochester 6 fucking hours and I was exhausted. Like, I can only imagine. And like, that's in the same state.
The same state as opposed to multiple states.
I've driven the entire East Coast in like a sitting, so that's a lot of travel. That's all I have to say about that.
And only some of it was on foot, you know. Only some of it was some of it was by car. They lost their car, like, not that, you know, it's still a good degree away from where they needed to be. So, I mean, by foot, that must be insane. You know, yeah. I'm getting worried about myself in the apocalypse, you guys. I don't know if I'll have the physical stamina for it.
You know what? Legs are gonna look great.
Thank you.
We will just hunker this little island down and make it our fortress.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of attracted by the promise of nice thighs. You know, I think I might just I'll trek. You know, I'll go
doing all that running and walking around, your legs are gonna look fantastic.
Absolutely.
So Joel and Ellie finally reach Salt Lake City, where the hospital, where the Fireflies are. So this is kind of another one of those moments of peace. And I'll tell you why. And I think I'm going to, you know, there's just been so much crazy nonsense. We just got over talking about Ellie, perforating a man's chest multiple times. So I think we can kind of take a moment on this one. On their way, Joel and Ellie head through an old zoo where they find a herd of giraffes peacefully walking through the site. Isn't that nice? Yeah, it's just cute. It's kind of like a Jurassic Park moment where they're like, oh, this is peaceful. It's kind of this like, you know, nature moment. Everything kind of feels like a kind of light in the darkness in the, you know, shadow of this huge looming foreboding apocalypse that
You know,
certain things just kind of carry on no matter what.
I think it's really funny now that I think about it. Like, imagine what a situation like this must look like to the animals' perspective. Like, yo, you know, like the giraffes are just sitting here like, the humans, what the fuck is
Ben,
going
do you have
on
any idea?
with them?
Do you have any idea what's going on here? No, man, I'm just eating leaves.
I
You know, I'm
literally just saw them like careen across the fucking field, eating one another. I'm just getting, you know what? The leaves are up here. They're down there. I'm just gonna look up here. They're not bothering me. Just gonna look up here. There's like a horde chasing everyone around. It's just like, I'm just gonna look up here.
The giraffes are doing the right thing. They're minding their business, which is exactly like what they should be doing.
All the other animals, it's just business as usual.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
man.
that's like really important for something that wouldn't affect, like you said earlier, like it affects some of the insect population, but it affects a very small degree of the animal population.
They're like extremely small mammals it can handle.
Yeah. But like something like a lion or like a giraffe.
Oh, hell no.
All that stuff's going to stay the same. And I think that's like kind of, it reminds me of the Will Smith movie, I Am Legend, where he's like hunting and he sees the zebras and there's like a lion and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
That's like so interesting to me because so much of this game, like everything's overgrown. All the stuff that used to be commonplace is like, you know, covered in moss.
Well, yeah, it just goes to show you what humans have done to the planet and like what removing them from the top seat of the food chain or the top seat of control will do for the entire planet.
I think we took some time to hang out with the giraffes, you know, and just fucking chill in the apocalypse. Joel then talks to Ellie and says that they don't have to go through with the Fireflies plan. They can simply live peacefully with Tommy in his encampment. So this is a major role reversal from the Joel that we saw earlier in the game, who was kind of just viewing this as a job. He's like, look, we don't have to do this. Like, you can just live with me and my brother. You can be my surrogate daughter / ward, and we can just, you know, ride this crazy little apocalypse out until we get infected or die. So yeah, it's kind of shows a great degree of character development on his point, not only within Ellie but within himself. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was worth talking about. Ellie tells him that everything that they've been through, quote, can't be for nothing. So Ellie is thoroughly still on board with the cure plan. She's kind of like hoping that her life is, you know, a little bit more significant than just, you know, kind of, you know, waiting around. If she's the only, you know, she doesn't know she's the only person that's immune. But, you know, she knows that she is immune and she's like trying to. I think Ellie's character is a lot about her immunity being kind of like her higher purpose in the first game. Rain, since you actually played, would you agree? Do you think that she really wants to, like, do you think that she's after this cure? Does it give her character some kind of agency, you think?
I feel like the further you get in the game, the more you see it from Ellie being like, no, like, this is what we're going to do. Like, I'm ready and willing to do what has to be done to get a cure. Especially after, like, you play the DLC and you see what happens with, like, Riley. Like, she's all for, no, we need to get a cure for this. There needs to be a vaccine. There needs to be something. And if I have to, you know, do whatever, I'm doing whatever.
Right. So I think these are very different, you know, these are very different characters than what we had at the beginning of the game. The pair approaches the hospital through partially submerged ruins. They both fall into flowing water, and as we can remember from the Henry and Sam scenario, Ellie cannot swim and almost drowns. So Joel kind of brings her up on the shoreline and tries to start applying CPR to her to try to revive her, get the water out of her lungs. However, as he tries to do that, fireflies approach and tell him to stop trying to apply that, that life-saving maneuver and put his hands in the air. However, Joel is like, she's dying. Please don't do this. And that's very interesting because it kind of mirrors the situation he had with his daughter, so very slightly. I always brought a little slight comparison between that. Whereas, the Fireflies is like saying, put your hands up, like don't fuck around, something like that. Whereas the soldier was like, put your hands in the air, we don't know what's going on. So the Fireflies knock Joel out, where he wakes up in a hospital room later on, where he's greeted by Marlene. Marlene's been away for a little while, so for the folks at home, she is the leader of the Fireflies. She assures Joel that Ellie is fine and that she's being prepared for surgery. Marlene explains.
I remember this.
Oh, yeah, this is the big moment.
Oh, man.
This is not only the big moment of this game, it is crucial to the events of Last of Us 2. Crucial. So Marlene explains that to study the infection for a potential cure, they need to remove it from Ellie's brain, which will kill her. Big oof. Yeah, no good. As we remember, the cordyceps virus kind of attaches to the brain and takes over the host. So she's infected. She is infected. But whatever her brain is doing, whatever her particular infection is up to, they need to get rid of it. And that's probably going to take a little bit of that pink squishy stuff with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not great. Not great. Ellie will die in the process.
Now,
So-
I don't understand, this is like taking place in modern times. You could scan the brain, can't you? I mean, obviously, probably not with the materials that they have.
Probably not with the materials, probably not with the people that they need.
Yeah, I guess
There's not
so.
not a lot of neurosurgeons knocking about in the apocalypse.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure you could find one.
They definitely did something though where they ran a test on her, because they tell Joel, they're like, oh, this part of her brain where the infection is what's causing her to be immune. So they definitely scanned her. They did something. They didn't just cut her open and then put her back to cut her open again.
So
I think they did give her a scan. I just don't think they had a doctor skilled enough.
So, I don't know. Maybe just fucking wait it out. Don't waste this opportunity.
People are turning into mushrooms, Colton. We don't have time.
I understand that. I understand people turn into mushrooms, but Jesus Christ, man, it's a 14-year-old girl. Come on.
All of us are feeling a little angry right now, and you know who else is a little angry? Joel.
Oh yeah, just a little
Joel
bit.
is pissed, and he demands to see Ellie. However, Marlene definitely says no to that and instructs her men to make him leave. So Joel is being escorted out of the hospital, and quite like the thoroughly plot-armored protagonist that he is, he overpowers the Fireflies and learns that Ellie is on the top floor. He then makes his way up to the hospital through heavily guarded areas. Finally finding the operating room, Joel enters the room to find Ellie lying unconscious on the table. One doctor threatens Joel with a scalpel, saying, "I won't let you take her." However, Joel shoots him.
Yeah,
The other
just
surgeons
outright.
are too scared. Yeah, just fucking out the gate. Just here you go.
That's another thing I love about this game. The absolute lack of hesitation when it comes to killing people. Right from the get-go with Robert, she's just wrong answer. Pop! Just immediately. Or the guards that are right before you have to get to Robert. She's just all right, fuck this. Pop! Just
That's the apocalypse, baby.
It's crazy.
Anything goes.
Anything goes. And speaking of anything goes, it says here, the other surgeons are too scared to move, and Joel picks Ellie up. However, your character control is free at this point. And I thought, my first time playing this game, I thought you had to kill all of the doctors. Turns out you didn't have to do that. So I just, Colton, I know you're talking about people being trigger happy. I just laid waste to that operating room. It was not good. But yeah, so you have to kill this one doctor, but the other surgeons will just kind of let you do what you do. So Joel picks the unconscious Ellie up. So if you'll imagine, if you will, at home, He's got this young girl in his arms, and where his hand is, he's still got his pistol out, like in like kind of the curve of where Ellie's knees bend. So he's still ready to shoot. He's still ready to scrap if necessary, and that's going to come in a moment. So Joel then enters the elevator and descends into the parking garage. Marlene confronts Joel, begging him to reconsider his actions. So she's like, hey, I get it. Don't do this. Marlene is very much in the opinion of kill one to save 1,000.
Yeah.
She doesn't really care if Ellie dies, if there's a cure. And, I think that Joel, I don't really know, I like you said earlier, like you kind of want to have this paragon sense of no, we don't trade lives, one life is worth 1,000 lives, all that stuff. I don't know,
Nah, you know what? I mean, I'm going to go with Marlena on that one, just because, like, we're already at the point where that philosophy went out the window. People are way dead at this point, and it's do or die. It's literally do or die at this point. But in this particular instance, we have the fucking capacity to look at a person's brain without killing them. It's just in the search of a more practical way of doing it. A practical way of doing it is accessible. So why would you do the other way when you can do the other way?
There was no way to make the vaccine without having that piece of Ellie's brain, and that I understand. But
wait, so they needed they needed the physical piece of the brain to make the vaccine?
To remove it.
They needed to remove it where the infection was and take that piece of the brain so they can find out what in her brain causes the immunity.
Oh.
So she had to die. And Marlene, if you collected the voice recordings, was very upset that Ellie had to die. Like, she was really upset about it. Did not want to do it, was trying to find a way to make it not be that way, but it had to be that way. And I also understand from Joel and his perspective of, you didn't even ask Ellie. Ellie was knocked out when we got here. You didn't ask her if this is what she wanted to do. This is a person. This is still a human life. She doesn't have to give up her life to save you.
Yeah.
I think I really want to end with that kind of conversation. So let me get through the final moments of this brilliant little narrative. So Marlene tells Joel to reconsider. However, in order to help prevent the Fireflies from pursuing them, Joel kills Marlene. And the pair drive away with Ellie unconscious, still in the back seat. So the leader of the Fireflies is now dead, and the only person who could have helped save the world is kind of going down I-95 far away from the people who can help.
Yeah.
So Ellie wakes up as Joel drives back towards Tommy's settlement. She asks what has happened to her. Joel tells her that the Fireflies found many other people with immunity to the infection, but they had no luck of producing a cure and that they stopped trying. As the pair approach Tommy's camp, Ellie stops Joel and makes him swear that what he has said about the Fireflies, about her immunity, and about the infection and the cure is true. Joel says, quote, "I swear." And Ellie replies, quote, "Okay." And that is the story of The Last of Us.
Right up to the end, I agreed with him.
Yeah, this is big dumb on Joel's part. Big dumb energy. Real smooth
big
brain
head,
stuff.
Big
Here.
head, no thoughts.
Big head, no thoughts. He is just straight out lying to her.
Not only, but like, this isn't like a typical lying to a 14-year-old type lie. This is fucking literally life and death you know, where one piece of misinformation could doom the human race.
Right.
And she's the immunity like center of this whole thing. Not a single other person has been found to be immune, right?
Not at present. I won't spoil anything, but in the events of Last of Us 1, yes.
Right. Okay. So, you know, not a single person to their knowledge else is immune. She could be unique entirely in that fact. And, you know, just holy shit, man, just lying about that. And then turning her against the Fireflies.
Yeah, without a doubt. These people that, you know, like Rain said, Marlene was really fucked up, really sad about this because Marlene gave us Ellie in the first place at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
So
and like,
it's obvious the two have a relationship of some sort.
This ending, literally, I was talking to my fiance about this earlier. I said, this ending pissed me off.
Yeah.
Like, I was really, and I understand, like I was saying earlier, I do understand it from Joel's perspective. I really do.
He like sees her as a daughter almost.
But I feel like in my position, and mainly because I have overwhelming anxiety and would make me feel guilty, I would have let them take Ellie and been like, listen, as long as you swear that you're going to get a cure out of this, okay. But for Joel to do all of this and then look her dead in the eye and go, yeah, no, I swear they gave up on finding a cure. There's so many people like you because he cares about her. Like, I was like, oh, wow, fuck you, Joel. All right.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan of that at all. It's just so, I get it, but bro, you know.
I'd like to state that I am not a big fan of Joel, period, end of story. Just overall, like, I'm just like, all right, your daughter's dead. You know, there are people walking around like mushrooms. So, like, maybe she got off easy. But at the same time, he kind of lets his paternal instinct, his own loss and kind of his own, like, sense of, I guess, validation and or like redemption get in the way.
That's what I would say, redemption instead of validation, because
thousands of lives.
Yeah, he just wants to feel like I failed at saving my daughter. I'm not going to fail at saving Ellie, but that's as deep as that thought goes. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to have one last mini conversation and then we can give our final thoughts before we wrap. But I'd like to know, where do you guys feel like Ellie lands in all this? Do you think that Joel was right and that Ellie should give, you know, Ellie seemed to be like, oh, everything can't be for nothing. You know, we have to have the cure. You think that if somebody just maybe asked Ellie if she wanted to go through with it, that she would go through with it? Do you think that it would be right of them to kind of do this, we've kind of been focusing on the grander context and what's at stake on the macro level, but do you think that, just doing this even without her knowledge or consent because like she got knocked out at that point, she probably would have just not noticed,
just faded away,
faded away. What do you guys think? Like, do you think that
it's a hard question, man, because
that's why I want to pose it.
I mean, from a moral standpoint, everything in my head is screaming people are people and they deserve to have a say in decisions, especially when it comes to the last one they would ever make. So but at the same time, the stakes are so ridiculously high. I mean, the only way I could ever justify non-consensually killing Ellie for a cure is if it was the only possible option, to save humanity. Because I don't think you should let humanity die because of that one hurdle. You know what I mean? That's the only possible way I can think to even remotely justify something like that. But
all right, cool. So you're on the fuck Joel train?
I'm on the fuck Joel train. I think that the only possible way to come to that conclusion is to explore every other possibility to its fullest potential first,
I get where you're coming from. You're always you've been about try to find something else. You know,
try to find something else because like there's no solution in the world that is going to benefit everybody, but you need to look for the solution that's going to benefit the most people,
right?
In all possible facets.
I mean, I understand that at the end of the day, this is an apocalyptic pandemic world and you want to save humanity. And while I don't necessarily agree with what Joel did, because, that was pretty fucked up, Joel, I do agree on Ellie as a person, and they definitely should have just, run a bunch of tests, wait for her to get up and be like, hey, listen, this is what has to happen. Like, we ran tests. This is why you're immune. This is how it works. We need to kill you to get it out and make a vaccine. For me, like, if I'm going in for a surgery and I find out that the surgeon goes, oh, your kidney could save Colton, and they just took my fucking kidney, I'd be kind of pissed.
Yeah, but that's like to save me, not the entirety of humanity.
But even so, what if their vaccine only makes, what if that little piece in Ellie's brain only makes one vaccine? You're saving one person.
Right.
You get me? Like,
I know exactly
don't know
what you mean.
What would happen. We don't have any of that information.
Right, which is what I was saying before, to like explore every possible opportunity, like every possible option. Because that is one of the options, that's one of the possible outcomes. So
one of the possible outcomes is that they kill her and her brain can't actually make a vaccine, and it was just unique to her.
Exactly.
And then look at that. She should have lived, and she could have lived with her immunity and lived out a full life.
True.
I don't know. I'm not going to say like fully I'm on the fuck Joel train, but I'm definitely like not on the, oh my God, Morlina, the Fireflies are right. I'm in this gray area in the middle of just.
You're checking the train times on the fuck Joel train.
Yeah.
Can I get on this?
I'm like,
Get the MTA app.
I wrote a few stops on the fuck Joel train. I don't know. I was a psychology major, and they made us do a bunch of these questions that were like, if there's one person tied to this track and 5 people tied to this track, which side do you let the train hit? And that's just, I literally feel like I'm back in psychology class.
Yeah.
With this.
Okay. Well, obviously this game has a brilliant story. Obviously this game is very well written and well acted from a performance standpoint. But what do you guys like about this game on a purely gameplay kind of level?
It's great. I think it's great because, it's realistic. You're not going to find fucking bullets and ammo everywhere. It's just, unless you live like, deep south, but or in Florida. But like, it's realistic. The items you find are realistic. You're not going to find a fucking Bowie knife. Joel has a shiv that he carved himself. Yeah. And you have to use your hands. You're not going to be shooting everything all the time. If I was in a zombie apocalypse and most of the zombies were responsive to sound, I'd shut the fuck up and try and get around them, because I ain't trying to throw hands at something that doesn't get tired, know?
Yeah. I mean, like I had said earlier, I really like that it's like very realistic. But one of my favorite things about this game is that it's very heavily based on stealth, and I'm not one of those let me rush in and like beat the shit out of everything I see or shoot everything. So this was a game right up my alley because I love stealth and like having to like really think about, oh, okay, I only have X amount of this item and I can either craft a med kit or like a bomb. What do I do?
Right.
So that's like, I really enjoyed this game though. 10 out of 10.
Gives you like a force to choose kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always rough when you have to decide where your alcohol is going, to a Molotov or a med kit. Yeah. So I think that I guess the wrap up philosophical question here would be, We've talked at length about our zombie apocalypse plans. We've talked at length about what we're gonna do. I think where we should probably end here is where is your hard line? You know, I feel like at this point we found Joel's hard line, and he would not let Ellie die. Like, he wanted the cure. That was the whole reason he went through this odyssey in the first place. But his hard line was he would not let Ellie die for it. So I think, to give you guys, kind of an idea of where I'm going with this, like the hard line for me, I think, would be not. I wouldn't want to hide my infection. You know, if I were to be infected, I would want to kind of go out in very dramatic fashion, very much like kind of very much Send Me Out with a Bang, very much Avery Johnson, very much like taking out as many of this threat that exists at once. You know, I wouldn't want to. I feel like it's equally selfish to kind of hide that as it is to kind of do something like Joel does. You know, I feel like it's selfish to put other people in danger because you're afraid of how they will react. I would just walk right up to you and I'd be like, "Look, guys, I'm bit. You know, it's happening. So strap all the grenades and, you know, C4 to me that you want and send me off into a nest. You know, let's make it happen." So I just wonder, you know, I feel like since this game is really a lot about morals and about kind of the struggle and the human struggle through the apocalypse, do you know where you would have to draw the line, even in a situation like this?
I think I do. I have a very clear hard line in my heart, and I have a circle of about 15 people in my life that I would search to the ends of the earth to find in a situation like this, and just make sure, because I need to know that they're safe. And once, like, let's say I find everyone in that circle of people of mine, that is, defend these people until the end. You know, just keep them in my life for as long as possible, but to a rational extent. You know, like if God forbid somebody gets infected, somebody that I love gets infected, you know, it happens. You know, that's just how the dice fell. You know, you got to deal with it as it comes. You have to deal with every situation as it comes. And I think my way of thinking normally, the joke that I make all the time, I live in 30-second increments. I think that's a fantastic way to live in a situation like that, because everything happens in 30-second increments. So, I mean, but like, I also think, to your point, you were talking about what would happen if you got infected. I don't know, man. I feel like if you were to get infected and we were all involved in the decision making there, I feel like I would opt to have a waiting period, you know, because you could end up being immune. And, right? You know, okay. I would feel like if you're going to do the C4 and dynamite thing, like, just wait until it confirmed happens and then throw you into that. You know what I mean?
It's wild that you mentioned that, because there are actual visual signs. When Tess notices that she was infected at the beginning of the game before she dies, she compares her wound to Ellie's, and she's like, "I got bit 2 days ago. It's already looks a ton worse." So she's probably really immune. So yeah, if that wound started to creep, I'd be like, "All right, let's have another round tonight. You know, let's drink the night away, and I'll do this in the morning."
Exactly.
So I appreciate that. Thanks for.
I would never let you do that without perfect 100% confirmation. Are you kidding me? You're one of the 15 people. So
sweet. I figured, but I didn't want to assume.
Yeah, you and Rain are one of the 15. Are both 2 of the 15 people. So.
Oh damn! I made it.
Nice.
You absolutely made it.
I just walk up to you with like an empty hoodie sleeve, and I was like, "Well, the whole thing fell off, so I feel like we can do this," you know.
Exactly. To answer the question, I have a really strong set of morals, like really strong. So like, in a sense of like, if I was infected, I would 100% immediately just say, hey, I got bit. Whatever y'all want to do with me, we're going to do it, because people are people. You guys deserve to know if I'm about to turn batshit crazy and kill all y'all. You should get a head start.
Yeah, I would tell you guys immediately too. And you know what? I don't think I could hide it if I wanted to, because my nature.
You would tell me in 20 seconds.
Yeah,
You'd be like,
that's my nature.
Let's not talk about it. Hey, Rain, look at my bite. Like, that would exactly be you. But like, for me, like I said, I have such a strong set of morals that like I feel like for me it's just like I'm obligated to say that. But also, like with what Colton was saying, I would just take my immediate family and be like, all right, we're gonna just do whatever we can, and if we survive, we survive. If we don't, we don't. You know.
I mean, that's the apocalypse, baby. That's for sure.
How it be.
Yeah.
And I think that the interesting part to this game to nowadays is, especially when the characters go through areas with spores, what they do is what you should do at home, which is wear a fucking mask.
I mean, obviously not one as intense as that, but like put one on, you filthy animals. Like, just come on.
If the Last of Us virus can get into your lungs and turn you into a mushroom person, so can COVID-19. So please wear a freaking mask already. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Just do it.
I can't believe that we're still having this conversation. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, I can. It's America. I can understand. But like, good God.
Wear your damn mask.
Wear your mask. Wash your hands. You goddamn nasty dirt people. All right, so let's go.
And to all you mask wearing fans, we hope you come back next week. Thanks for joining us for a little bit of a look into the apocalypse.
Absolutely. That coffee was great, by the way. Not gonna lie.
Right, we should probably
can't wait for Colton to be infected in a day.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll call you in the morning, and if I eat my phone, I'll let you know. So.
Okay.
Oh, Colton's calling me. Except Colt.
Well,
time to die.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.